Yeah, this is going to be an interesting one. Visitors always fast and furious.
Fast and furious. So just looking at the crews getting aligned, these coxless boats getting ready to go. Just see on the clock there, 18:40, that's race time. Things do run pretty much to clockwork here, so probably away in about 10-15 seconds now. Hands coming down from those bow seats, which mean they're ready to go. Umpire's orders. And we are away in the visitors' semi-final of the intermediate open coxless fours. We've got the British development crew on the left and Brookes on the right.
Yeah, Brookes have come straight over into the middle, and this is bad. They are going to be right on top of each other. Brookes being warned back to their station by the umpire. And actually, it's also the Molesey and Holstebro crew have gone right over to the booms as well. Brookes really struggling with their steering.
Sorry, looking at the back of John Hedger, the umpire in the yellow and black Hampton stripes. He's warning the Brookes crew, but also going vertical to stay apart. Now, you know, he could look at what's happened there, and again he's warning, This is a very, very attacking start. We said it was a needle match, and sometimes the steering is gamesmanship, sometimes it's, and with these crews, I think there's probably a bit more gamesmanship than kind of being blowing around.
Yeah, although I think you can really easily get caught out at the end of the island when the conditions change, because you come down, there's a bit of shelter, and then suddenly the wind hits you from the side. And, you know, even on a coxed boat, that can easily throw you off course.
So drama from the start in this visitors' semi-finals, and, you know, if you're an athlete in this situation, it's quite disturbing, actually. So one of the athletes in each boat is steering, and that's the stroke man in the British development boat and the stroke man in the Oxford Brookes University boat. So they've got a lot of responsibility on their shoulders. You don't have a cox. What you've got to have usually is somebody making the calls, often the two seat so that everybody can hear, sometimes the bow seat, so you've got to coordinate a bit. And what the person calling would be saying is stay calm. You've got to stay calm through the steering. And what we can see is that we've got a little bit of advantage for the development crew there as they go past the first marker.
Yeah, and this Molesey Boat Club and Holstebro Roklub crew are an interesting one. They're 4 students who've been rowing in the US, so 2 from Cal, 2 from Washington. 2 of these guys are British development athletes, but the other 2 have kind of come along almost as their friends to help them, 1 from Denmark and 1 from Germany. So it's not a full GB development crew, but certainly it's here to bring these athletes on. They won't have rowed together as much as these Brookes guys, so that communication that you talked about, Matt, will be really vital, because the Brookes guys have rowed together all year long. They know how they row, they know how they respond. How do these guys from this Molesey and Holstebro crew react together when things get difficult?
Yeah, so he's spot on as always. This is all about how you combine. Super close. I can see John Hedger's hand. He's almost like a trigger finger on that umpire's flag. We're watching super closely. He wants them to manage themselves, and actually that's what the 2 strokemen will be doing. They'll be keeping an eye on the umpire and just trying to make sure they manage this race as carefully as possible. But talking about that point, the combination of different talents and different styles, the advantage for Brookes is they've had the cohesion being forged through the furnace of the winter months together. These guys have had less time together, but they are 2 pairs from 2 different programs, and the question is, can you bolt their styles together in a way that's going to sustain? And when they come under pressure, we might find out the answer to that.
Absolutely, and we said it time and time again, one of the things that's so impressive about Brookes is that you put all their boats side by side and they all row the same pattern, the same style, with the same intent. So if you've got crews that have slightly different technique or have trained in a different way, so maybe they're more of a start attacking crew or a finish attacking crew, it's working out how to bring that together in a short space of time to form something cohesive.
Absolutely. One of the other things I notice here as you talk about cohesion is the different threads running through these crews, all the different clubs that are involved in supporting athletes getting to this point of being able to compete at Henley. And as we look at this, I think that Brookes have maybe clawed back a little bit here. Again, a little bit more steering correction. I think they're having a bit of trouble. Maybe the wind's got a bit more swirly in the middle of the course than it was a touch earlier.
I think Brookes are back now to maybe just a few feet. They really look like they are challenging strongly, and actually if you look at the way Brookes row, it's very, very long through the water. They're really well connected. They're really driving that boat past the blade every stroke.
So we were asking ourselves, will the cohesion hold for that composite crew? But Brookes really have moved very strongly, and to me they don't look like they're kind of pushing extra hard. There's just a mid-race pace that they've got that the others are really struggling to contend with. So looking at Ryan Spellman, 24 in the bow seat of the Brookes crew, we can see his back on the left of the picture looking towards us, right alongside. Look at that marker at 3/4 miles. Brookes have just moved through, I think, since then, haven't they, Zoe?
Absolutely, and if you look at the blades, the oars of the two crews, you can see a lot more splash coming off the composites boat, which suggests a bit of inefficiency, so a bit of wasted energy, whereas Brookes look much smoother and more efficient.
I mean, it's really exciting, isn't it, that you rise to the challenge of being down in the early part of the race and the confidence the Brookes guys had. You laid out the landscape of cohesion and being able to respond, and this is what Brookes are doing now. I think they've moved like 2 lengths in the last minute and a half, Zoe.
Yeah, this is a good attack here from Brookes. They were sort of confident to sit down. I think they really trusted in their mid-race pace. They trusted in their rhythm that they could row through the middle, and they didn't get rattled by that early lead. And that's the thing that gets you caught out at Henley in this one-on-one racing. If a crew that you don't expect suddenly jumps out into the lead, sometimes the faster crew can end up not being the faster crew because they're just surprised to be there.
Couldn't agree more, and I think that's what I was impressed, that sort of calmness of the cohesion that you called there from the Brookes crew, looking at some great rowing. Ryan Spellman, we mentioned, Callum Gilby, Jonathan Cameron and Travis O'Neill in the stroke seat with the steering foot as they fly underneath us, looking into the face of Travis there, 21 years of old, lovely long rhythm. You can sort of feel the push. You know, rowing is actually a push motion, and that's what these guys do. They kind of stick the blade in at full reach and they're just pushing hard with those legs, like 8 pistons going down together in a well-oiled engine.
And the steering one's a really interesting one as well, which is, you know, for you more than for me, really. But having to also be in charge of moving your foot back and forth to control the rudder, which means your legs aren't straight. So actually, how do you manage that in terms of the sort of physics of where your legs go?
So the better the crew, the more cohesive the crew, the less work you need to do on the steering foot, which is true.
That's what we're seeing from Brookes now, I think.
Exactly, we're seeing that, and I think that's the question you posed at the beginning, Zoe. Everybody's cheering them on. They love to see these crews getting into semi-finals day. It's an achievement in itself, and I think for a composite crew, the Cal Golden Bears, the Danes, the Brits, and they come together and well, a great performance off the start, but it wasn't enough for the cohesion and the miles and miles on the ergo and on the water from the Oxford Brookes crew. Happy to go through for finals day, but we're seeing the red flag from umpire Hedger. Now, that does not mean a disqualification. It means he's not declaring the race result yet. It's likely that
there was
be a
hand
protest
up
from one of the crews.
From Ryan Smith, who was the stroke seat of the Molesey composite crew. So he was asking to speak to the umpire there to suggest that he thinks something happened in that race that meant there was something unfair that he wants to talk about.
And look, if I was in that crew, I would do exactly the same. You know, we did see a warning on Brookes very early. They did come very closely together. The composite crew was forced to move, and we're going to try to hear what the umpire says now.
Yeah, so both of you were not steering very straight. I agree. When I was warning them, they were a length and a half in front of you. And obviously at the beginning there was interference as well. I'm just going to check the results in the final hitting verdict, so wait there. Okay, thank you.
So just hearing John Hedger, the umpire, super experienced umpire here at Henley, a steward, but also a FISA umpire, a world rowing umpire, so tons of experience. And he's saying he's just going to check with the other judges. Now, there are an array of stewards and experienced umpires in the boat with him, on the back of the boat. He's going to check whether his recollection and the views of those umpires sitting there. That looks like Boris Rankov, one of the most experienced umpires, fellow Oxford Blue of yours, Zoe. Super experienced people around to just advise him. I think he was teeing this up to sort of say, I'm not sure that it affected the outturn, and that is what the umpire has to judge, right? Did the impediment, if there was one, affect the outcome?
I mean, obviously,
so
I wouldn't want to be in that job, but if it was me, I think the place where Brookes were potentially most in the wrong was actually when the composite crew was leading anyway. So I suspect it might be that the umpire thinks, if it was me, I'd think, well, I don't think that has affected the outcome of the race.
Exactly right. The question was it an impediment, and did it affect the eventual outcome? I think, Zoe, I would agree with you on that, but we don't have all the information. Bit of deliberation, so nervous times here. So John really wants to be confident. We do our best at Henley to ensure the racing is as fair as possible, and we're as clear and coherent in the decisions that are made. And these, as I say, they're super experienced people.
And then I think this is when it's great to see that, you know, the support that the umpire has from other officials to to guide them and help them and suggest things. It's a really useful collaborative environment.
Okay, guys, so
let's listen.
The
John comes back.
verdict at the finish was 1 1/4 lengths. So in my opinion, although there was interference on both sides, it didn't affect the outcome of the race, so I'm going to let the results stand. But you understand that?
So did you hear that from John Hedger? Those 2 questions we posed. Was there interference? Yes. Did it affect the outcome? No. And I think that seems like a fair decision. The white flag goes up, which declares that there is a clear verdict, and the umpires approved that verdict. So a bit of drama there in the visitors, the semi-final, but Brookes go through to the final.